Good day, everybody. This is Yin Yang in California. Morning number 1846. I've come 1846 consecutive days to bring you morsels of a thought of what I hope is wisdom, because knowing the right things to do is a form of wisdom, and doing it is a form of virtue. So let's begin. We have a lot to say through a lot of people, but my first thing to say is that I got roasted last night. Um, are you still there? Oh dear God. Oh, okay. I got roasted last night over a political post that I made that I placed on a friend's page because this friend happens to have the same thinking that I do. But an admin decided that it was a horrible, horrible thing that happened. So the admin said, I have given you 2 warnings before. If you do this again, then you'll be banned. And I said, well, I don't remember 2 warnings from before. And what the hell? Tell me, what were they? So I can tell you, so I can avoid it, because I would never have done it twice. And also, this would have been the third time. So I found out that the admin didn't know that the note that they had sent was for another admin. Okay, so they said, I don't know, but now you know. So green vitriol came from a little bit of somebody who didn't like me, which I don't mind, because a lot of people don't have to like me. Doesn't affect my life in the least bit, except for it moves the needle when they have power over me. Now, this morning, I just put out a day of the uh, daily rules lady, excuse me. I put out this book, day 129, which was Stay in Your Power today. And it could not have come at a better time to tell me to stay in my power, because that has to do with power. Moving the needle has to do with some power. Put your power into moving the needle. I don't care which way you vote. I don't care which way you see things. You could see things the absolute most ludicrous way that I ever would say that I disagreed with, but go move the needle or hold it in its place. Help hold the needle or help move the needle, whichever you prefer, but don't just avoid the needle. For God's sake, don't avoid removing the indicator. Don't avoid the indicator in your life. If all indications are pointing that way and the wind is actually going that way, well, point whichever way you think it's supposed to be. God dang. So what you're getting is a synopsis of other people's life experiences, and part of my life experience was a significant one last night. Yay, I have just given you my virtuous thought. So, although morsels of a thought is ordinarily not political at all, you know my political leanings, but I am trying to bring things of the right things to do. Words and Wisdom Wednesday is my day to use the freedom I have to uh, discuss my personal viewpoints or my personal life. I still want to inspire you, and that was my cat, um, and impart some wisdom. And I still want you to be taking the magic action. And this is the author who says action is magic, George J. Chanos, Millennial Samurai, Book 1, A Mindset for the 21st Century. So, Morsels of a Thought, my purpose of my show is to bring more virtue into the world. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but something in my mind said, Morsels of a Thought would be a nice title. It would be nondescript. I am no longer the type of person who would lead the charge to destroy Western civilization or rebuild Western civilization. I think Western civilization saved my butt, and I love Western civilization. I think the government, not the one we have today, but ordinarily, the government that I so really thought was dealing in oppression, um, we got to deal with the oppression from within. It's just, it's not in the government, it's in the people that make up the government. It's even more entrenched than that. So oppression is really a big, big thing. We're bringing more virtue into the world by talking about wisdom. I'm reading to you, and what you are going to get and what you are getting is a synopsis of somebody else's life experiences. So, Morsels of a Thought, 1846. Chapter 129 of George J. Chanos, A Mindset for the 21st Century, Book 1, Millennial Samurai. I love this man's um, wisdom. And I believe that he puts in acts of virtue with the right things to do, no matter what his political leanings are or how they may agree or disagree with mine. We don't talk politics except on Wednesday on my show. And that's what I want to do. I want to inspire you every day of the week. But if you disagree with me on Wednesdays, then what I can say is go fucking move the needle one way or the other. I'm pushing right or left, and you can push left or right, but push against me. Think of my vote and go vote against me. My vote, not don't vote against me. I'm not running for anything, but vote against my vote. My vote is one way or another, and yours can be another or one way. So there we go. Okay, public corruption. What a theme. Public corruption. John Acton, English historian, politician, and writer. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, I have changed the time of my show, so some of you may not have caught me live, and if there is no red button up above there, then that means that you're catching the replay, and that's okay. I don't mind. James Wolfensohn, Wolfensohn, the former chairman of the World Bank, warned in his farewell speech in the bank 2 decades ago that the problem that disturbed him the most when contemplating the future of the world economy was corruption. Now, oppression and corruption are kind of the same thing. We often hear of large capital outflows from countries like Russia that go into offshore banking centers that act as money launderers. We've also seen the rapid rise in cryptocurrencies that facilitate such transfers. Leaders like Putin, Xi, Mugabe, Chavez, and Maduro and Trump, I'll add in, have ignored, modified, or circumvented big time their own constitutions in order to enrich and entrench themselves at the expense of those they claim to represent. Eee! Okay, that's enough of my insertions here. Billions of, sorry, George, billions of dollars in oil money are unaccounted for in Russia, Venezuela, Brazil, Nigeria, the USA, and a number of Middle Eastern nations. These national resources are not optimally allocated for the benefit of society as a whole. They are simply stolen by the ruling elite. And Public corruption in the United States is no better, says George J. Chanos. Okay. The cost per mile to extend the New York Second Avenue subway was 4 times the cost per mile to construct the Crossrail Underground of London. Why? Why must contractors in New York pay 30% more for concrete than anywhere else? The answer is unethical and or illegal agreements between construction contractors, public sector unions, criminal organizations, and government agencies. The costs of these practices to consumers is not only higher construction costs, but also significant and often even more costly delays, some that can last for decades. Elected officials are rarely held accountable for such corruption. Other forms of corruption are explained away as policy ignorance on the part of our legislators. One of the greatest economic problems confronting the United States today is the problem of unfunded entitlements, benefits which, having been granted, can never be retracted. This is true for the federal government and for state and local governments, many of which are or could be facing bankruptcy due to their inability to fund these ever increasing deficits. When officials are asked how this could happen, the most frequent explanation is, we didn't realize how bad the situation was. Well, pay attention then. This is either a lie or evidence of gross negligence. And gross negligence can be unintentional. We're not talking about intent. We're not talking about intent here. We're talking about result. We're not talking about intent. Oh, I didn't mean to murder him. I didn't mean for him to die. Well, the man's still dead. The person is still dead. You're guilty. But I didn't mean to. Person's still dead. You're still going to jail. So this is either a lie or evidence of gross negligence. We didn't realize how bad the situation was. Many have been shouting warnings for more than 40 years, says George J. Chanos. Oh, and by the way, this whole segment is called Issues That Matter. This is the next bunch of chapters. The realities The reality is that legislators bought votes from the public by promising ever increasing benefits that succeeding generations can never afford to pay. In doing so, they created unfunded pensions and liabilities whose present value is around $80 trillion or 4 times the nation's current $21 trillion treasury debt. Okay, this was written in just a couple of years ago. Let me see, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I think he says so. He says, believe, 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 believe. Copyright 2019. So it's been 7 years since he wrote this. So our debt is way more than $21 trillion now. Okay. And what he says here, he quotes James L. Buckley, American jurist, politician, and author. What people fail to appreciate is that the currency of corruption is in elected office is not money, but votes. The public treasury and with it our future economic security has been traded for votes. This has been happening for decades, if not centuries, and is continuing at our collective expense. There is also the discrepancy in retirement benefits paid to government workers versus private sector workers. The benefit increases that public sector employees enjoy has risen at 3 times the rate of those in the private sector. The benefit packages for members of the United States Congress are even worse. They receive lavish lifetime retirement benefits, including very low cost, comprehensive health care coverage, not to mention exemption from regular FICA taxes, FICA. For decades, we have acquiesced to this outright theft from the public treasury. What we have been allowing to happen is nothing short of the wholesale mortgaging of our future and our children's future by corrupt and or incompetent politicians. Will Rogers, American humorist, newspaper columnist, and social commentator, said, "The more you observe politics, the more you have to admit that each party is worse than the other. Democratic politicians buy votes by approving public sector pension and retirement packages that are unsustainable by promising their constituents entitlements that require ever increasing taxation, while Republicans allow their contributors to strip the nation of its natural resources by allowing unrestricted environmental exploitation. In both cases, these concessions are traded for financial contributions and political support. And in both cases, this is outright fraud. No political party should be allowed to use the public treasury to solicit or secure votes. And no political party should be allowed to mortgage our children's future to get elected. Politicians who engage in these activities need to be held accountable and restrained." Bono, Irish singer, songwriter, and philanthropist, says the worst disease in the world today is corruption, and there's a cure: transparency. Millennial samurai will need to address the issue of public corruption by making structural changes to our political system that promote greater transparency and accountability. Millennial samurai are those of us who are alive in this new millennium. We all need to move the needle. We all need to participate in public action. We all need to be watchdogs. We all need to be watchdogs. Don't just watch one half. Watch all of everybody. Watch everything. Don't just watch your side. Don't just read one book. Read everything. Read everybody's side. Economic inequality. Okay, I forgot to mention. George J. Chanos was the Nevada Attorney General at one point in his political life. He wanted to run for president, but he looked at the political scene once he got there and he said, "This ain't for me." And he jumped out and he put in all this knowledge, all this wisdom, all of this, if we were to do it, is actually going to sum up to a hell of a lot of virtue in the world. So please pay attention to this particular book. Now, last week, I introduced the new date for this book to be Wednesday because this is the closest to the best wisdom I have got that I have in my selection of books. It is something about character, something about behavior, and something about government. So it's got lots of the right things to do. And he doesn't point out his own political leanings because he's smart. Um, I'm simply reading to you what other people say. And this man, what he says, I think really fall right aligned with my morsels of a thought. Okay. Economic inequality. America is experiencing the biggest income and wealth disparity in nearly 100 years. 7 of the richest men in America are among the 10 richest people in the world. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Mark Zuckerberg now control more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans. Nearly half of men ages 18 to 34 now live with their parents, the highest level since the Great Depression. 78% of the United States population now lives paycheck to paycheck with essentially zero savings. In 2018, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, a record number of Americans, 7 million, were 90 days or more behind on their auto loans. This is a troubling statistic. Auto loan payments, like rent, are usually prioritized. People need their cars to get to work, and people can sleep in their cars if necessary. America has historically experienced rising wages. It was the foundation of the middle class. For millions of Americans, life got better with each year as the value of their wages increased and our economy grew. This is no longer happening. The middle class is disappearing. For most Americans, real wages have been stagnant or falling for decades. Low-income earners now make less in real terms than they did in 1980. And middle-income earners make just 6% more than they made then in real terms. Instead of earning more over time, people are actually earning less in terms of what their wages can actually buy. Investments in financial assets have dramatically increased for the wealth and incomes of the wealthiest Americans, while average Americans are worse off than they were decades ago. Many blame private equity. Since 2008, private equity has quintupled to $5 trillion. Diane Standart, Standaert, of the Center for Responsible Lending, says their superpower is their obscurity. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Private equity firms borrow heavily to buy companies. They often sell off company assets or cut jobs to generate the cash required to repay the loans and pay shareholder dividends to investors. Workers are typically harmed by these actions. At Toys R Us, 30,000 workers lost their jobs in 2018. Many had worked at the company for years. Sears, Radio Shack, and Claire's were all gutted by private equity in the same year. Life is hard for millions of Americans. Most people are forced to borrow just to keep up. Historically, the average American had very little debt outside of a mortgage on their first home. But, uh, but after almost 40 years of declining real wages, Americans now have to go into serious debt for just about everything they buy. Americans now have nearly $13 trillion in total debt. Wow. Wow. More than $1.5 trillion in college debt, over $1 trillion in credit card debt, and more than $1 trillion in auto loan debt, all record highs. The debt load for the working poor has nearly quadrupled in the past 20 years as a percentage of their income. And most of this debt will never be repaid. Americans are working more productively than ever, while the fruits of their labor have accrued to corporate officers, directors, and their shareholders. This group is growing, and this stress and anger is building, ultimately fueling many of today's biggest issues. It's about money, unemployment, frustration, and homelessness. A jubilee which wipes the slate clean for millions of the most indebted Americans and resets the financial system may become the leading political issue in years to come. People don't always act rationally when they see their own life chances diminishing. Those are the outline of the rest of this chapter, which I will read again next week. Economic inequality. Okay, go out and move the needle. If I'm pushing this way and you disagree with it, go push that way. Come on, I challenge you. I challenge you. I challenge you. Okay, old Kinderhark.